Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And in vaccine news, we may have a COVID super vaccine thanks to artificial intelligence. Not sure if this is going to affect your 5G reception or previously inserted microchips on the other vaccines, but here's what's going on. Now, this is coming from TechCrunch, specifically Devin Koldewy. Thank you very much for this. And this is actually really interesting. And I understand that for some people, vaccines are very controversial, all that kind of stuff. I am not getting into that debate. Your beliefs on vaccines are your own. I'm not here to adjudicate that. I'm simply talking about the latest technology in vaccine technology, which I think is absolutely fascinating because artificial intelligence is able to do things and look at things in a way that we simply don't. And so here's what's going on. And again, this is, I just think, absolutely fascinating. A new approach to vaccines with a machine learning twist could put an end to boosters and seasonal variant shots, according to the researchers over at MIT. Now, this is a pan-variant vaccine that could, or should, I'm sorry, specifically would ignore the virus itself, but quickly control infections by cracking down on the infected cells. Now, to be quite clear, this is still in the animal testing phase. It's nowhere ready to be deployed and all of that, but with COVID essentially becoming just a standard household name in the human population, longer lasting solutions than occasional boosters. I believe the recommendation is still once every 6 months. Obviously, here we are. This could basically break that cycle. The problem, though, is that as interesting and fascinating and as amazing as the mRNA technology based vaccines are, and for the record, mRNA basically started back in the 1990s, and so it's been developed over decades, but as amazing as those are, they are reactive in nature, not proactive. In other words, you see a variant, you sample its spike protein or some other distinctive features of the variant, and then you basically put that into your immune system so that your immune system knows to be on the lookout for those variants. It's kind of like letting the rescue dog sniff the belongings of a lost hitchhiker or a lost hiker. There you go. And so researchers at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab wanted to find another more enduring way to keep the body safe from a COVID attack. So a paper describing their findings was published this past March 9th in the journal Frontiers in Immunology. Now, the team decided to essentially punt on the idea of attacking the virus itself because its most distinctive feature, its spike protein, has been always changing, as we've seen this in various variants throughout the world. Instead, they focused on certain molecular signals that reliably appear on the surface of cells that are infected by the virus. If those can be spotted early, then the immune system's T cells could be deployed quickly. The infection then could be stalled before it even reaches a dangerous or potentially infectious level. These surface signals, called human leukocyte antigens, or HLAs, and essentially they present a variety of peptides to T cells, kind of like raising semaphore flags, if you will. If you're familiar with semaphore and how you move the flags, basically you're spelling out words. It's how ships can communicate if all communications are down. Now, if everything is in order, it's the usual combination of familiar peptides and T cells that this is essentially moving on. If something is wrong, a fragment of the virus could be hoisted up the flagpole, and the T cells then would go to work, basically eradicating it. So the question is then, what does machine learning have to do with all of this? There's a lot of data out there cataloging the various proteins and amino acid chains found in the COVID virus. And so what they do is they turn basically in, and what they turn into, as I should say, as they are infiltrating a cell, meaning this is what it looks like, this is what happens when they're infiltrating the cell, and then also how the cells indicate basically using HLAs to alert the body that they're infected. So machine learning algorithms are good at solving optimization problems like this, where lots of noisy data has to be sorted through for specific combinations of qualities. In this case, the researchers at MIT designed algorithms to catalog the relevant peptides and select about 30 that are present or quote-unquote conserved in all versions of the virus, but also associated with HLAs and are likely to be used as flags for T cells to see. In other words, they are giving it a massive haystack looking for those specific needles, and this is something that AI is incredibly good at. So in testing, transgenic mice given basically human versions of HLAs, and on top of it, this new vaccine showed that they had a far more voluminous immune response in the short term after an infection. None died from the virus when compared to using the traditional mRNA vaccine, which is effective according to testing, but not this effective nearly. Now, an interesting possible benefit on top of this is that immunocompromised people may get important protections from this, while the RMA vaccines don't necessarily work for them completely. Long COVID sufferers may also get some relief in the form of more comprehensive, basically a more comprehensive immune system awareness, and therefore assaulting against these kinds of viruses, especially when we're talking about resilient infections. And obviously the applications for this go well beyond COVID. We have plenty of other things. Imagine going through this and wiping out things like the flu, because the flu obviously has variants. We get a booster once a year, a new flu shot, all that kind of stuff. Now, if we are able to recognize what is consistently flu throughout the years through variant after variant after variant, this may essentially solve that issue. So I think this is interesting. I think this is really promising technology. Again, I do not care, what you think of vaccines. Please do not send me hate mail or Nick, you're an idiot. Vaccines are, ruining 5G or whatever it is. I'm not interested in that conversation. But the technology behind this and the application of artificial intelligence, I think is absolutely fascinating, because we are solving some problems that could, using artificial intelligence and leveraging the computing power that this has in the way that it can intuitively sift through large amounts of data to cut through that noise is essentially the name of the game. So we might be able to develop things significantly faster by virtue of letting the computers do the work for us. Obviously, it requires testing, it requires validation, and all of those things, but this is a really promising step. So we're going to see what happens. I'll keep you informed if I get any more news on this, but sooner than later, we may have super vaccines, and providing it's not turning us into zombies, we should be good. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.